Welcome to the FUMS Now podcast show, where we share tips and tricks for living your best life with multiple sclerosis. Find us online at FUMSnow.com. I'm your host, Kathy Reagan Young. Welcome, everyone. This is the first episode of the FUMS Now podcast show. I've wanted to do this for so long. I love the idea of interviewing people that we'd all be interested in talking to. But calling someone up and asking to pick their brains versus calling someone up and saying, I'm with a podcast show and requesting an interview are two very different things, and they're received pretty differently. This show is giving me entree to ask the questions of the people that I find interesting and wouldn't normally be able to talk to. I have plans of interviewing a lot of different people, like neurologists and MS specialists, people who've had success with certain MS diets, complementary practitioners like yoga instructors and massage therapists, hypnosis practitioners, MS nurses, fundraisers, certainly researchers, caregivers, financial planners, disability attorneys, work-from-home proponents, healthcare advocates, medical travel planners, and of course, family, friends, spouses, and patients. I invite you to let me know who you'd like to hear interviewed. Leave your idea in the comments section or drop me a note at Kathy, with a K, Kathy, at FUMSnow.com. Today's guests are Dan and Jennifer Digmann. They are a married couple, each of whom has MS. It's quite the story, and they're an amazing team. They've written a book about their experiences called Despite MS to Spite MS, and I've put a link in the show notes if you'd like to order a copy for yourself. It's a wonderful read, and it was my great pleasure to interview them for the show. Best part? Now I get to call them my friends. So let's get right to the interview. Okay. Thanks so much, Jennifer and Dan Digmann, for being with us this evening here at FUMS Now podcast show. Welcome to you both. I'm so excited to have you all here. What a wonderful book you have written, and we're going to get to that in just a second. I just want to, by way of explanation, go back just a little bit. I'm not exactly sure. I can't remember where I heard about you all first, but I'm awfully glad that I did. This wonderful book that you all wrote, Despite MS to Spite MS. Love the title, by the way. And these two people are just really neat people anyway. I'm sorry that we had to meet through our mutual disease state, but I think I would really like you anyway. So glad to make your acquaintance. This book is a collection of really funny, touching, real-life sort of journal entries, right? It's a love story. It's a story of courage and gratitude and joy and ultimately hope. Jennifer, you were diagnosed in 1997. Is that right?
That's correct. 8 days after my 23rd birthday.
Oh, gosh. Happy birthday, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. It was a few months after I graduated from college.
Oh, gosh.
So it was just like a double smack in the face.
Yeah, no kidding. And at that time, were you diagnosed with secondary progressive?
No, I was diagnosed with relapsing remitting MS.
First.
And I just had, unfortunately, a rather aggressive form of the disease. And within 5 years, I became, what do you say, characterized or diagnosed with secondary progressive MS.
Saddled with, I'd say. Yeah, right?
Saddled with is an excellent way to say it.
Oh, gosh. And, okay, so Dan, you were diagnosed also in the year 2000, right, with relapsing remitting?
I was, and I was 27, and I actually had just started a new job at Central Michigan University, so how do you break that one to your new boss?
Right.
So,
oh, gosh. Yeah, so. Did you? I mean, did you take a while, or did you tell them right out of the chute?
I was diagnosed on Valentine's Day, so I had a good month and a half in there. And so the day after I was diagnosed, I just got my boss into my office, and I was just went for broke because I figured and was hoping, it's a public institution, they should be understanding, right? And so I just called her in my office and I told her the news, and the first words out of her mouth was, "What can we do to help?" I mean, that was perfect. I mean, I have an office on the second floor, and they were like, "We can move you to the first floor if you want." And I said, "Not right now." And I guess happy to say, some 14 years later, I'm still on the second floor. So
that's awesome. How great of a reaction, Wouldn't it be great if everybody had that kind of reaction?
Totally. That's where you truly feel blessed that I was able to do that. I guess, but I went for broke because I guess if they weren't cool with it, I'd find some place that was.
Right. So then, all right, y'all were married in 2005. That leaves a whole lot out. So you want to give me a little background on how y'all met?
I was a self-help group leader, and the women in my area, we had put together a program for other women who had been diagnosed with MS and lost sight of their hopes and their goals and their dreams that they put on hold because of MS. And so we put together a program called, appropriately enough, Finding Your Buried Treasure. And it was intended to be for women only. But somebody, and I'm not sure who, forgot to put that phrase on the invitation. And so
Good thing.
Someone who's not a female got invited to the program.
I think what happened is I got the invitation and I wasn't planning to go because I live in Mount Pleasant. It was down in Frankenmuth, which is about an hour and a half away from here. And so that's a long way to go on a Saturday. But I think the programs manager, they realized that men were signing up, and I think they wanted to get more men there. And so the programs manager called and special invitation for me to go. I think that helped to satisfy the quota or something for the gender. But yeah, when I showed up, she encouraged me to sit at Jennifer's table because we were both younger and thought we'd have a lot to talk about. And I think unbeknownst to her, I had a lot I wanted to talk to Jennifer about.
Yeah, apparently.
She came up to the table and it was just like, oh my gosh, that's Jennifer.
Oh. And so Dan and I met that day, and it was an instant connection, and we started out friends, and we both wanted to stay in contact, and we knew that each other was a self-help group leader for the National MS Society. And that was what instantly kept us in contact. But then after a little while.
And Jennifer puts up this nice front that it was MS, but I was just like, there was so much more than MS I was interested in when I wanted to.
There was some chemistry.
I thought that was fantastic. I didn't know at the time, but to hear it now, I think that's fantastic because he's adorable. And
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so sweet. I get a lot of questions from single folks with MS, and I don't have any experience myself. I was already married and had 2 kids by the time that I was diagnosed. But I would imagine that's pretty, that could be pretty overwhelming to think about, having to tell somebody that you have MS, and when do you tell them, and how do you tell them, and how are they going to react, and all of that. And I just, I love this story because I guess it was kind of out there already, huh?
Absolutely.
Well, that's great. Had either one of you dated other people without MS since after having been diagnosed?
I was diagnosed, and before I met Dan, I had 2 somewhat longish relationships, and I told each of them that I was diagnosed with MS, and both, at the time I was walking, so it wasn't a problem, but when I met Dan, I was in my wheelchair.
Oh, you were? Okay.
And it's never been a problem for him and I. I mean, certainly, it's a problem that for me that I'm in a wheelchair,
right.
But he has never been, I guess.
No, it's never bothered me. I think, for me, actually, I was married before when I was diagnosed. And that relationship was, kind of on its way out anyway. And I think this just kind of expedited the process.
Facilitated that.
Yeah. And I, and I think that it was just one of those things where it kind of gave her an excuse to really push me further away. But I think then that gave me the strength to say, I deserve better than this, and just to soak up all the good health I had, not waste my time anymore. And so that ended. But, it was just after I moved out, it was only a couple weeks later, I met Jennifer, and that was the big thing, was just convincing her that, this relationship I had before had pretty well been done 3 years prior. So she was in no way, shape, or form a rebound. I mean, she was the real deal. And that's where, her having the MS and being in a wheelchair didn't concern or make me nervous, because just I believed in her and this relationship more. It's just I knew that we could handle anything together. So.
Oh, that's so sweet. I love that. Okay, you weren't nervous at all about getting in that relationship. Jennifer, I love the conversation that, about the wheelchair and whatnot. And on page 99, you said, quote, "Starting today, I'm making a conscious choice to reclaim the possibility of walking. I know it's going to be difficult and frustrating, but while it may not happen, I'm realizing that I'll die before I accept that I will never walk again. So I'm just checking in. Have you reclaimed that possibility of walking?"
I'm not walking. I still manage to stand, to make pivot transfers, to go to bed, and to use the restroom. But the biggest thing that I have as far as reclaiming my walking is I have a standing frame, and I probably use that 3 times a week at least. And so, and I am not giving up hope that I'm going to walk. And in fact, I'm starting a new therapy next Wednesday. And I don't have crazy hopes that, oh my goodness, this will be the one and I'll start walking again. But at least what I'm doing will hopefully put my MS more under control, and I can continue doing physical therapy and rebuilding strength.
That's fantastic. I will be keeping you in my thoughts and prayers, and I'll be listening out to hear the good news.
And thank you. I appreciate
keep us
that.
Updated.
Yes, absolutely, we will.
Excellent. And so, Dan, you talk a lot about being a runner in the book, which I frankly cannot relate to at all, because the only running I do is if I have to go to the bathroom. That's it. Although I will say, this is a whole nother story, but I did do a half marathon about a year after I was diagnosed. I was actually trying to train to do the 30-mile challenge walk for the MS Society, and I was just going to walk it, but every mile there was another band, and you and I, Dan, share this love of music. Well, those bands just got me so pumped up that I ended up running it, but that was the first and last time.
Wow.
But you are a runner, in that I'm just so amazed by anybody who can call themselves that. Do you ever feel bad or guilty because you run and Jennifer can't walk?
Well, I guess clarification, I don't run much anymore. I fell one other time, and I think at that point I was, going to graduate school and everything, and I was I wasn't committing myself to running as much as I should have, and so I'd taken time away. And, once you stop running, it's really hard to get back into it.
Mm-hmm. I would imagine.
And so I think, there's always, I have, the goals to say, yes, I'm going to run again, because I think, there's a lot of liberation that comes with that. But, when I was running, I think there was some guilt, just you feel bad. And then Jennifer never made me feel that way, but at some levels I always felt and this maybe will be a good reminder for myself, it's there are people out there who would love to be in my position, and I fear that there could come a day when I'll look and say, what were you waiting for that you didn't start running again?
Interesting.
The ability is there. You forget how much work went into getting yourself in that condition,
Right.
And so I'm far enough away from the running now that I know I have to start from ground zero, whereas before I kept thinking I could, I was running 3 and 4 or 5 miles at a time every day. I can go do this. And you go out and you try to run 1 mile, and it rips your muscles and wears you out for like 3 weeks. And so you have to start slow. So, but I mean, as a runner, I felt guilty just because, because they couldn't. But at the same time, I would hope that Jennifer wouldn't let if I couldn't walk.
Right.
And I think selfishly, I think I can't walk, and Dan, you can. You have the ability to run, and it encourages me where I'm like, you go out and you run while you can.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing it for those of us who can't walk or can't run.
Right.
And maybe that's not fair to put that weight on his shoulders, but I always think, Dan, you're doing it for us that can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like somewhat of a big load to carry, but
no pressure, Dan, but get out there.
Thanks.
Dan's tough, and he's willing to do it, and he will run again. Just like I will walk again, he will run again.
Love it.
Probably him sooner than me, but it will happen.
Love it. Jennifer, you called your MS diagnosis in the book one of the best things that ever happened to me. That seems an odd statement, I'm sure, to several listeners. So how so?
Absolutely. It put my priorities in focus.
Mm-hmm.
I knew what was important to me, and I don't know if other people are experiencing the same thing. The things that you think are so important, and the friendships that maybe are teetering on the edge of maybe not the most solid friendships. When you are diagnosed with MS, the true ones come out. And that is something, and your priorities get kind of straightened out. And never mind the fact that it was through MS that I met this amazing man sitting next to me and going through my life with me.
That's great. Great way to look at life. You both seem to have such great attitudes. Was this inborn in you both, or have you had to cultivate it? And is one more inherently optimistic than the other?
When we read that question, Dan and I just looked at each other and kind of chuckled because, yes, there is one that's just more optimistic.
I've always been optimistic. I've always been, I don't know. There's a blog out there. Stuff could always be worse, and I totally could relate. I mean, I always feel that way because I think there's always a sense that I would hate to wake up tomorrow and wonder what the heck I was complaining about today, and wish I could have these problems. So, I mean, and regardless what's there, I mean, there's always people that would love to have my problems. So why would I complain? So.
And I am the type who is always, the glass is half empty. So any sort of, I'm very blessed and I'm very lucky that I have an amazing family and friends to support me on this journey. But I do kind of look at it from that perspective. So I have worked on optimism and cultivating that. And my marriage to Dan has certainly helped me strengthen my faith and optimism.
Well, I think
you're washed well.
Yeah, you're both doing a great job. I was repeatedly struck by how little MS seems to get in your way. Going to the concerts and the baseball games and whatnot. I mean, lots of challenges, no question, but you just keep going and you do it anyway. It just sounds like you have a really fun life. And in fact, it seems now like you've even incorporated MS into your work as well. Because I noticed several citations in the book, published in this magazine or that one. How did that all happen? And what else are you doing to incorporate your disease into your career?
I guess we got, fortunate. I think, you have the story. So there's a lot of things where you have to go out and, I do writing at CMU, and I've been a journalist, and so you kind of know about pitching things, and so like getting things in magazines, it was a lot of the pitching and writing query letters and whatnot, or just reaching out to people, and you make those connections. And so I think that's been the big thing with just being present out there, because I think we have a story to share and to tell. I mean, where you have a man with MS, one with MS, and you have two different forms of the disease, and you deal with it from those perspectives, plus marriage and as caregivers. So I mean, we just want to get the story out there to give hope to other people.
And I think it's always rooted in the fact that I was diagnosed before really the information was available on the internet. It was still really, you didn't know if you could trust it.
Yeah, scary.
And Dan and I, we can think back to when we were diagnosed, and there really wasn't a lot of optimistic, positive things out there.
That's right.
And so now we want to be that voice. We are trying. We don't want to say that selfishly, but we're trying to get a voice out there that, yes, you can make it through MS. And Dan talks about when we were diagnosed that Dr. Jack Kevorkian was very in the news all the time, and just more looking at the disease in a kind of doom-filled perspective, and we don't want that. This disease is tough, but you can make it through.
And apparently have a very full and fun and happy and joy-filled and love-filled life.
Yes.
You two certainly are evidence of that.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, because you don't want, we don't want to make it sound like, oh, everything's perfect and great. I mean,
sure.
And I think you just tough your way through it, because it's like you don't want to dwell on the fact of all the stuff that you had to go through to get to the game or to get to the concert, because just like everybody goes through things to get to events and whatnot. It's just like, so why is my trouble in dealing with MS any different from what other people deal with? Just go and have fun.
Yeah, and we have friends that have children. And anyone who has kids, we don't have kids, but if they're going to go out to dinner, how many things do they have to take care of?
Yeah, that's a hassle. I can speak to that. I have two.
Exactly. Yeah. And so we have to go through things to get me in my chair and to get, everything lined up. But so does everyone else. And so I think that's one thing that we always try and think about, is everyone has got their own burdens to deal with.
Everybody's got their stuff, huh?
Yep.
Love it. Love it. And you're both such good writers. Does writing help you? And everything you just said right there, I'm going to guess, is why you wrote this book, to encapsulate the, it's tough, but you just do it, and there's life beyond this. Is that right?
Yeah.
Totally. I think because there wasn't a voice, we didn't see the voices out there. And I think, the writing, really helps me. I wish I could do more of it. I think that
me too. Why don't you?
that whole work thing gets in the way.
Oh yeah.
And that whole multiple sclerosis thing, for me, writing is, I am so incredibly proud when we get something written. If I'm able to type it out and I use that one finger, I use my speech recognition software. If I get a finished product, I'm like, go me, MS, take that,
Yeah.
I didn't let it hold me back. So that's therapeutic, but at times I'll be sitting there with tears running down my cheeks because I'm like, why can't my hands work? But in the end result, I'm like, yay, go.
I rock. That's great.
Yeah, exactly.
I love your idea, Jen, of writing things that you're thankful for based on the number of your age on your birthday. Like, 35 things I'm thankful for at the 35. So has it gotten any easier or harder to come up with things to be thankful for each year?
Boy, that's a really good question.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think it's gotten easier because oh my goodness, Kathy, you can now be one of my, oh my gosh, I'm going to be 40, one of my 40 things. I'm like, yay, I got to talk with Kathy and do this awesome podcast. And always, I'm married to Dan and I have a great cat and just little simple things.
Oh, that's awesome.
And they're easy and they're not simple, but, it's just to be appreciative for everything we have.
Mm-hmm. So. It's everything that's important, right? Like you said, put everything in perspective. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's next for you two? Another book, advocacy, motivational speaking? I mean, you do all those things, don't you?
We'd like to do more. I mean, we've talked. We're hoping to get another book in order. I'm like just I'm taking my last graduate class, and I'll hopefully graduate in December, and then I can really focus on the book. And I mean,
wait, just a second. Excuse me, Dan. Is this the one about Bruce Springsteen?
Yes, it is.
That is so awesome. Having read your absolute adoration for the boss, I was thrilled for you that this is what you get to study.
Well, it's one of the things where Jennifer and I started graduate school together in the same program. And after about 3 classes worth, I was like, Jennifer, I can't do this. It's like, it's so much work, and then I've got to work and blah, blah, blah. And you do this whole, poor me. And so I stopped. Jennifer went on. She graduated in May of 2013. And at this, she's a superstar. I was always jealous of her because we're in the humanities program where she basically could formulate it and take the classes that'll help you follow your interest. And she was able to do disability theory. And so every class she took, she had like some sort of focus. And I was just kind of all over the board. And so went out for dinner with some friends, and they were celebrating Jennifer graduating, and Jennifer just turned. She says, "Okay, now it's your turn." And so
no pressure.
Yeah, right.
And so I had to graduate within like 2 years. So I've been double timing it and stuff. But she helped me realize, because I was going to switch programs. But then she says, "Well, what would you do?" Because you have to do like a Plan B paper, kind of like a thesis of sorts. And she said, "Well, what would your thesis be on?" And I was like, "Well, Bruce Springsteen, of course." And so,
yeah.
But it got me thinking. It's not just Springsteen, but it's really more the power of music and how it helps people control their emotions and move through things. And it's just like, so really becomes more with the music. I just happen to have this infatuation with Springsteen that I can, totally relate to. And so.
And then he's looking at it, he's making it sound simple, but he's looking at it like historically, the power of music and the combination of music and religion. And so as he's like putting all these pieces together, the one theme weaving through all of this is Bruce Springsteen, which is fantastic because Dan loves Springsteen. So
as I always say, I'll be getting my MBS. It'd be my master's of Bruce Springsteen. So
that's great. Well, I would love to read that if you care to share when you're done, because I'm a huge proponent, huge music fan, huge proponent of using music. I've got teenage girls, and I tell them, when you just feel like you got to cry and you're not sure why, and you need an excuse, turn on a sad song. But then be ready to turn on a happy one and turn it around. So if I'm having a bad day, that's the first thing I do. I've got music going on all the time. I find what you're doing very interesting.
So where do you turn?
Oh gosh, all over the place. Oddly, this is going to make zero sense, but I am a huge blues fan. So blues actually makes me happy.
That is not that, because we have one of our friends hosts I'll send you the link. He hosts a blues show. It's like award-winning blues show on CMU Public Radio on Sunday nights, and you can stream that online. I'll send it to you.
Great, love it, thanks.
But that is so powerful, and that's music, and that's studying in general. Just when you think about things that you can be thankful for, it's just that we've had the opportunity to study and share our voices and not let multiple sclerosis hold us back from getting more education and
just experiencing life.
Yeah, and sharing our story and hearing other people share their story with us.
Well, you're both such inspirations, and I'm so glad to finally meet you all. I just absolutely adore this book. Thank you so much for sharing it with us and sharing yourselves with us. That's what makes it so good, because it's obviously a little piece of your heart every time, and it's very encouraging and uplifting, and I just really appreciate that voice being out there. And as you said, when I was diagnosed too, which was in 2008, same thing. I mean, the scariest part was going online and reading all of these horror stories. That's why I started FUMSnow.com, because I just wanted to be a voice to go, you've got a voice in this. You've got a choice, a voice and a choice. Yeah, use them both wisely.
Well, and as far as scared as we were at the internet, those are the things that really help us through. It's like reading, blogs like yours, and just you build that community. I mean, we went out to Washington, D.C. and, met Lisa Emmerich, and who we've, been connected with on, through blogs and things. Sure. But it's like you go meet them face to face. It's awesome. But it's like, I know you've been a friend.
Yeah.
So, right. I go to a bar in Virginia and I run into you. I don't need introductions.
That's right.
We'll just be like,
come on down,
up and giving you a big hug, like for
perfect
BFF. That's the amazing thing about the MS community.
Right.
How many people, that's one of the, when you ask the question about one of the best things to happen, but how many people can go and have complete strangers share their life story with you?
That's right.
And conversely, want to hear your life story. It's just because of this disease that makes that possible. And I think that's amazing.
Yeah, a unifying force.
Yes.
So there is good in MS. Yes. There's the takeaway message, I guess. Yeah. So again, thank you both for being with us. And I'm asking every guest of the show to recommend a piece of equipment or software that's been helpful to them in their life with MS. Do you have some recommendations for us?
Why, isn't that silly? I would say a grabber. A grabber is like my number one best friend, because nothing is more frustrating than dropping something and not being able in my wheelchair to reach down to the floor. Right. And my standing frame. There's nothing more empowering than, even though I'm in a wheelchair every day, just to have that 45 minutes where I am up standing at the same height as everyone else.
That's great. That's super. Okay. Dan, did you have anything that you wanted to add, or?
I was just thinking,
any software that you found helpful? I don't know what kind of meds you're on, but I know some people have found some certain softwares very helpful to keep track of meds. Or how about something you listen to music on?
Well, obviously the iPod, and I think, and just think other resources, and just like online resources, like like your website, like healthline.com has been very good. I think just resources. Great. The National MS Society is perfect, just as far as having like balanced information.
Right.
I think equipment, Jennifer, it's a portable ramp. Works. Because there's so many times we have like a group from church, a bunch of friends. We always host the monthly parties because our house is accessible. Not everybody's right. house is accessible. Sure. But on those rare occasions, if they only have like 3 steps to get into their house, we're golden. We're there. So
great.
Ramps are key.
Okay. Love it. Thank you for that. One last thing. Here in the FUMS Nation, we speak to this stupid disease as it deserves to be spoken to. Please join me in saluting MS as it deserves with middle finger extended. On 3, ready? 1, 2, 3. FUMS.
FUMS.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's so fun.
So fun.
Thanks for listening, everybody. If you found value in this podcast, I invite you to go into iTunes, search for FUMS Now, and leave me a 5-star review. Not only does that motivate me to create more free content, it also helps others just like you to find this valuable resource. Be sure to sign up for our free newsletter for more tips and tricks for living your best life with MS at FUMSnow.com. And if you have suggestions of future topics or guests for the show, please email me directly at Kathy, Kathy, at FUMSnow.com. I appreciate you spending this time with me. Until next time, remember to speak to this stupid disease like it deserves. Tell it FUMS every day.